Today we are talking about Kung Fu Panda 4, the fourth entry within the Kung Fu Panda series. And I will fully admit, when this movie first came out in 2008, the first Kung Fu Panda, I should clarify, I was 10 years old when this movie came out. And it was like the biggest deal to me when I was 10. I was just so excited. Jack Black was the ultimate kids movie star at the time. He'd been hosting the Kids' Choice Awards. He was, in Nacho Libre. He was just ultimately the biggest comedian for me at that time with School of Rock. And, pandas are cute. And when you're 10, you're just all over it. Kung Fu, pandas, Jack Black, just Dreamworks, which is the studios that made Shrek. Like, I was all into this idea. So, of course, I was tailor made to love Kung Fu Panda. This is kind of the weird case where I fell off on this series because when the second one comes out in 2011, all of a sudden I'm like 13, 14, not seeing as much animation. The third one comes out, I think, my senior year of high school. And so I kind of just like wasn't following this franchise by any means. Again, I have those very nostalgic feelings for the first Kung Fu Panda, but I was like, okay, Kung Fu Panda 4, let's do it. What have I missed? And so I didn't go back. I didn't watch Kung Fu Panda 2 or Kung Fu Panda 3. Just sat down and watched Kung Fu Panda 4 last night at the theaters. Mike Mitchell is the director of Kung Fu Panda 4. He's a very capable director of children's movies. He's done other ones like Trolls, SpongeBob, Sponge Out of Water. I believe he did the Lego movie Part 2, Shrek Forever After. He's like very capable at making these types of films fun. And Kung Fu Panda 4, it follows Po, the Dragon Warrior, in his misadventures. And essentially, there's this new villain voiced by Viola Davis. It's the Chameleon. She's this person that can shapeshift into anyone, and she starts leading and she wants to basically take over this kingdom, and Poe the Dragon Warrior has to stop him. But at the same time, his master Shifu, voiced by Dustin Hoffman, has to tell Poe that it is time for Poe to step down and become the spiritual leader of this kingdom, and that he must find the new dragon warrior. And Poe's struggling with that. Poe likes his job, he likes being the dragon warrior and all that comes with it. And so this movie is him kind of in denial of what Master Shifu is teaching him. And Kung Fu Panda 4 doesn't get any more detailed than that, really. The only other element of this movie that comes into play is Awkwafina joins the cast in this movie. She plays the character of Zen. She's a fox that basically befriends Poe. She's a little misadventurous, she's a little robber. And they form this kind of unlikely friendship, and we're now on this journey for 90 minutes. It's very bare bones, I think, is a fair way to describe it. None of the Furious Five are in here. For those who do not know who the Furious Five are, that Angelina Jolie voices the tiger. I think Jackie Chan voices the monkey, and there's three others. Maybe David Cross voices one of them. I don't remember exactly, but they're the other animals that kind of go along with Poe and his teacher. And they've been parts of these movies. I believe they've been in the other three. I know they're in the first one. Can't speak for sure on the second and third, but they've been big parts of these movies, and they're not in this movie particularly. Probably just didn't want to pay those actors for just nothing roles. Dustin Hoffman is in this movie returning as Shifu, but he's very much bookends and starts the movie where we're not really on an adventure with him. It really feels like Shifu has a few lines of dialogue and then that's it. Really, the characters we are focusing in on are voiced by Jack Black, Awkwafina, Viola Davis, and you have James Hong as Poe's father, and then Bryan Cranston as Poe's panda father. They're on this ride for this adventure. And yes, so the cast does feel a little bit more bare bone. It doesn't feel like everyone's really out for this movie, and they do keep it a little bit more centralized. I think the idea of this was introducing Awkwafina as a new character to try to get her to kind of take now more of a leading role. So now all of a sudden they have maybe two more names that feel a little bit more appeasing to younger people and maybe get them a little bit more excited. Despite some of this hollowness that I may have felt in this story and the characters and world of this movie, that smallness also allows the best parts of the Kung Fu Panda series, in my mind, to come through. And that's the character of Poe, voiced by Jack Black. They're so synonymous at this point, and it's just kind of a joy to watch Jack Black do what Jack Black does in the role of Poe. It's that energy, it's that cheerfulness, it's that optimism that just make these films fun to watch and make it extremely easy to root for Poe as the hero. So yes, while everything is stripped away from him, it still now just allows you to be like, okay, this is a Poe movie, and Poe is so much fun to spend time with in these movies. So yes, while I did feel that kind of lack of scale and size and what almost felt like a reducing of the budget where they're like, well, we don't want to spend this type of money on this movie to get these people to pop in or just have these characters, like it's easier to just centralize it. It does allow Jack Black to shine, which I think he does. I think he's, as always, really good as a vocal performer in this movie. Aquafina is, it's going to be, for some people it's going to work, and for other people her performance is not going to work. I don't find her as grating as I know some people do. I thought she worked in this movie, but I also wouldn't be surprised if someone told me that she doesn't really work for them in this movie. It is going to be a case by case example with her. I thought she brought enough heart in this movie, and I thought she paired well with Jack Black, her former co-star of the second Jumanji movie. I thought there was enough that she was doing interplayed with Jack Black to make this character enjoyable, but there is going to maybe be a little bit of pushback in accepting this character to take anything more of a serious role in future installments. But for my monies, I thought she worked well enough in this role, even if I found this character's arc fairly predictable and you kind of know exactly where she's going from the beginning. Viola Davis voices the villain of this movie, and Viola Davis is always giving 100%. And she's great. She's legitimately great in this movie. She's intimidating. She's everything you want. I thought this character was a little bit almost too big for what this movie was, where it's just like this villain played by Viola feels so world encompassing, where the rest of the movie feels a little small, that it kind of worked against each other. And so it also made this villain character feel maybe not out of place, but there it didn't fully connect with me. And I think I would have wanted something a little bit more personal from this. She's very broad in her motivations in this movie, but it's Viola Davis. She does a great job. And I really just can't say much more about Kung Fu Panda 4 because it is a kids movie. And I think it is going to work to entertain children. And I will say, as I saw this at like 10:30 p.m. last night, this was basically an all adult screening. Everyone seemed to have a good time. The jokes largely hit. There's a few that kind of fall flat at times, but ultimately, while watching this movie, it's a quick 90 minutes. It never lets up, where it's just like it's kind of scene after scene, joke after joke. If one set piece doesn't work for you, you go on to the next one. And it's kind of just a quick, breezy movie that's kind of just hard to dislike. One thing that I did want to just call out real quick that I thought worked really well in this movie is the art design and animation of these movies. Not a stencil feel to it, but it felt a little bit, the worlds themselves felt a little bit more looser, almost like color paint, I guess would be the best word. And it gave this artistic integrity to this movie that I liked. I don't think it's been the style of the past few Kung Fu Panda movies. I don't remember it in the first. Maybe I was just too young to notice, but it did add something that felt, that made it feel a little bit more modern. And I appreciated that. And I thought this movie was very beautiful to look at. So ultimately, I can recommend this movie, even if I'm not going to say this is a particularly all that special movie. So, with that said, I can recommend Kung Fu Panda 4. I think young ones are going to like it. And I really, that was one issue that I had with this movie where I've always felt does a really good job of playing for both older audiences and younger audiences. I really thought this movie skewed young, which I don't blame them. That's their demographic that I want to hit with this movie, and that's who they need to get to make this movie huge. It kind of felt at times like the illumination, like way too kiddish. There's a few just moments that were a little bit too childish for me, and it really just, those were moments where I kind of rubbed against the film and it wasn't really working and the film slowed down, but they're pretty few and far between. It was just something that I noted where when I kind of think of DreamWorks from when I was younger, I always thought of it as animation with a little bit more edge. to it, not like Simpsons edge, but just, a little bit grosser, a little bit funnier, a little bit naughtier, whatever you want to say. And I didn't feel it felt like those were sanded down in this movie. So ultimately, can recommend Kung Fu Panda 4. I think people should check it out, and I think they'll have a great time. And I think if you have kids, I think this is going to be a pretty big crowd pleaser. Anyway, my name is Ben Friedman, film critic. I don't know what the crossover audience for this is about to be, but today at 4 p.m., I am live streaming. I'll be watching along with the 96 Academy Awards ceremony. So for anyone who wants to join me, again, don't know what the crossover on this audience and an Oscars live stream would be, but join this channel and make sure you check that out if you are at all interested. My name is Ben Friedman. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.